The night opens with a hush, broken only by the distant roll of thunder. Beyond the horizon, clouds drift slowly, their edges glowing silver under the watchful moonlight above. The air is thick with promise, as if the heavens themselves are holding their breath in waiting. From far away, a breeze moves gently, whispering secrets of storms not yet revealed to the earth. In the stillness, the sound of waves rises, steady, calm, a rhythm, echoing the heart of creation. Every drop of moisture in the air trembles, caught between silence and the thunder yet to come. The world beneath listens, unsure if it should fear or welcome the voice of the sky tonight. Children look upward, their eyes wide, sensing a story far greater than their small village paths. Elders recall words passed down. The storm is never just a storm. It is a message from above. Somewhere, beyond the reach of mortal sight, sits Zeus, guardian of thunder, keeper of balance. He watches the earth with a gaze both proud and heavy, knowing change always begins in silence. This is not the tale of destruction, nor of fear, but of power, transformed into meaning. It is the story of the Stormbreaker Zeus, a journey where thunder learns to speak with wisdom. The morning rose gently, sunlight spreading across the valleys and forests like a soft golden thread. Birds sang from the branches, their songs bright, as if the world itself had forgotten the night of thunder. But the sky was never truly silent, for high above, clouds moved in, patterns only the heavens could read. They whispered, gathering quietly, not yet dark, but heavy with meaning no mortal eye could fully know. Villagers stirred awake, their steps cautious, sensing the air was not the same as yesterday's calm air. Fishermen paused at the shore, nets in hand, gazing upward, uncertain whether the sea would stay gentle. Children played near the river, laughing, but stopping now and then, glancing at the distant horizon line. The elders sat together, speaking of old words. Words carried like threads from one generation to another. They spoke of balance, of skies that listened, of storms that came not only to break, but also to renew. In their stories, thunder was not an enemy, but a reminder that nothing in nature remained still forever. One elder, voice low and firm, said the winds carried whispers. The Stormbreaker will awaken once more. The younger listeners leaned close, curious, their eyes wide, eager to know what the prophecy might mean. But the elder smiled sadly, reminding them that prophecy is not a warning, but a mirror of hidden truths. The river ran fast that morning, its surface shimmering, as if echoing the pulse of a restless heartbeat. Trees bent lightly in the breeze, bowing as though they knew the skies were preparing for something vast. No storm yet, no rain, only silence stretched thin, a silence that seemed alive with unseen voices. And in that quiet, a sense of waiting grew, filling the air with wonder and a touch of unease. The prophecy, though old, carried weight, and many believed the Stormbreaker was not a threat, but a guide. For every storm is a teacher, the elders said, shaping both land and soul with lessons hidden in thunder. Mothers told children to listen closely, for thunder was not anger, but the sky's way of speaking to earth. The children laughed at the idea, but deep down they listened, their ears open to the language of clouds. In the temple at the village edge, a flame flickered, burning steady, a symbol of watchfulness and hope. Priests placed offerings of grain and fruit, not from fear, but in gratitude for the balance yet to come. The mountains beyond stood tall, their peaks wrapped in faint mists, guardians of secrets older than men. It was said the mountains remembered every storm, holding their echoes within stone and shadow. Travelers passing through spoke of skies far away, where lightning danced and rivers swelled with power. Their words spread quickly, carried by eager voices, weaving into the fabric of local belief and wonder. And so the people waited, each heart carrying both hope and doubt, as dawn stretched into day. Above them, the clouds gathered a little more, quiet yet certain, moving, like thought across the sky. No one saw him yet. No one knew that Zeus himself was watching far above, beyond mortal vision. He listened, hearing their whispers, their fears, their stories, and the fragile hope within every word. He felt the tension of the skies in his own chest, a restlessness that mirrored the world below. Yet he did not speak. Not yet, for the moment was still growing, like thunder waiting behind a curtain. The people did not know, but their voices shaped him, reminding him why storms must be more than fear. Thus the stage was set, not with chaos, but with stillness, a silence, deeper than any roar of thunder. And in that silence, the first chapter of the Stormbreaker's awakening had quietly begun. The day deepened, yet the sky carried a weight, as if the clouds themselves remembered something untold. Shadows stretched longer across the fields, not from the sun alone, but from the gathering of silent clouds. Farmers paused mid-work, feeling the strange hush that fell like a veil over their ripening crops of gold. The air thickened with a breathless pause, as though the world was waiting for a voice not yet spoken. Birds no longer sang so freely, their wings restless, circling the treetops before vanishing into silence. Children, once laughing by the river, now sat still, their gazes fixed. Upon the horizon, far beyond their reach, dogs raised their heads, ears pricked, uneasy, sensing in the air what humans could only guess in whispers. The elders met again, their voices softer now, speaking of omens and skies heavy with forgotten memory. One elder told of a dream, a sky split open by light, yet gentle rain followed, blessing every corner of land. They said the dream was not a warning, but a sign, a reminder that balance comes with both storm and calm. Mothers lit small lamps inside homes, their glow warm, guarding against shadows stretching too quickly. Fishermen chose not to set sail, their instincts sharper than reason, trusting the sea's quiet warning. The marketplace, usually filled with shouts and barter, quieted each person glancing upward with unease. A traveler passing through carried stories of distant lands where skies burned bright with endless storms. His voice carried awe, not fear, for he said the storms gave birth to fertile fields and rivers brimming full. The villagers listened, their hearts torn between wonder and worry, uncertain if such gifts came with cost. High in the mountains, mist thickened, wrapping the peaks in silver, veils hiding their ancient watchful eyes. The mountain goats moved downwards, an old sign, for they knew when the sky planned to tremble again. The forest grew still, its leaves unmoving, as if even the trees leaned closer to hear the whispers above. All around, silence deepened, not empty but full, a silence that carried weight and unspoken promise. Among the people, the prophecy lingered like breath. The Stormbreaker will awaken when balance is lost. Some feared the awakening, imagining chaos, while others hoped it meant renewal for soil and spirit alike. Children asked their elders what the Stormbreaker was, and answers came like riddles wrapped in story. Not a man, not a beast, but a voice of the sky, one said. Eyes, distant, remembering old songs of rain, another added softly. The Stormbreaker is not against us, but a guide. If we choose to listen. The people nodded, yet doubt remained, for no storm had ever felt like guidance, only raw, untamed force. Still, the prophecy had endured centuries, woven into songs sung by mothers and chants of wandering priests. And so the villagers waited, carrying their chores with slower steps, their eyes drifting often to the sky. The horizon darkened slowly, not with night, but with clouds gathering, carrying silver and ash in folds. A low rumble echoed faintly, too distant to frighten, yet enough to remind the heart of thunder's power. Zeus, unseen, listened from above, his gaze fixed on the world that called his storms both curse and gift. He felt their hope and fear alike, and within his chest the storm swelled, restless, longing for release. Yet he held it, shaping it, waiting. For storms, like words, must arrive in their rightful moment. The people did not know, but the first signs of awakening were already falling gently into place. The clouds were no longer drifting. They were gathering with purpose, bound by will not wind alone. And in the quiet between breaths, the whisper of the skies grew louder, heard not with ears but with soul. So the day closed under a canopy of shadows, not of despair, but of expectancy, heavy and alive. The villagers lit fires, their glow trembling, their hearts bound, together in wonder of what might come. And above, unseen thunder stirred like a dream, waiting for the dawn of the Stormbreaker's true rise. High above the mortal lands, the celestial hall shimmered, a palace of clouds carved by light and eternity. Its walls shifted like living mist, strong as stone, yet soft as air. A paradox only the heavens could hold. Pillars rose into infinity, woven from lightning itself, glowing faintly with the pulse of divine energy. The floor reflected the skies below, rivers and forests, moving like painted glass beneath Zeus's feet. Here sat Zeus, the guardian of thunder, his presence vast, his silence heavier than the gathering storm. His eyes, deep as storm clouds, looked down upon the earth, tracing every village, mountain, and ocean. Though crowned with light, his face carried the mark of burden, for storms never left him fully at peace. He held the staff of thunder, not as a weapon, but as a symbol of balance between sky and soil. In the hall, voices of lesser winds drifted, whispering news from every corner of the world below. They spoke of farmers watching the horizon, of rivers running wild, of forests bracing under strange calm. Zeus listened, each whisper layering within him, weaving into a tapestry of unrest he could not ignore. The storm within his chest mirrored the storm gathering outside, both restless, both aching to be known. Yet he did not release it, for thunder given too soon brings fear, and rain without reason brings ruin. His thoughts wandered to the prophecy mortals cherished, the name Stormbreaker, spoken in trembling hope. Did they know that their Stormbreaker was none other than him, bound by duty to guide the restless sky? Or did they imagine a savior apart from him, a figure hidden, waiting, separate from the god of thunder? Zeus rose slowly, each step echoing across the hall, like the sound of distant thunder rolling in valleys. He approached the great balcony, where clouds opened to reveal the endless stretch of earth beneath. He saw children at play, pausing to glance upward, their laughter touched by quiet unease. He saw elders whispering prophecies, their words weaving threads of fear and faith together. He saw mountains wrapped in mists, rivers rushing faster, forests holding their breath in perfect stillness. Every detail struck him, each image pressing against his spirit, asking for balance, asking for care. The winds swirled at his side, playful yet worried, like children, sensing the heavy mood of their father. One bolder gust spoke gently. "Great Zeus, the earth waits for you. Will you send storm, or will you guide?" Zeus did not answer at once, his gaze steady, his silence long, for he wrestled with truth within himself. For storms were not simple gifts, nor punishments, but lessons, and lessons must be timed with wisdom. He remembered long ago, when his thunder shook lands in anger, and mortals trembled without understanding. He remembered also the times his rain saved the dying fields, when gratitude rose like song to the skies. The weight of choice pressed on him now, heavier than the clouds stacked. Across the wide horizon, the celestial hall dimmed as lightning coiled silently along the pillars, reflecting the tension in his soul. The winds hushed, waiting for his decision, their whispers fading into expectant stillness. Zeus closed his eyes, breathing deeply, his chest rising with the rhythm of storms yet unborn. He did not crave destruction, but he could not deny the storm. It was part of him, as natural as breath. Balance was not silence, he knew, but harmony. a storm that came not to break, but to remind and renew. He opened his eyes again, and in them flickered not rage, but the calm strength of a storm held with care. "Not yet," he murmured, his voice low as thunder before dawn. "The time has not come, but it draws near." The winds bowed, their forms curling in respect, carrying his words softly across the edges of the earth. And far below, though mortals did not hear his voice, they felt a shift, a ripple of quiet reassurance. The sky above them darkened, yet the air grew gentle, as if promising that the storm would teach, not harm. So in his hall of clouds, Zeus waited, his heart aligned with the whisper of the skies, steady and true. The Stormbreaker had not yet revealed himself, but his awakening had already begun to shape the world. The days turned, and the earth below revealed its imbalance, whispering troubles through rivers and fields. Zeus watched, his gaze steady, seeing how harmony faltered where once it had been woven with care. In one land, the rivers shrank to thin lines, their beds cracked, thirst burning in the soil and its people. Fields wilted, crops bowed in silence, the farmers looking to the heavens with weary hope in their eyes. Children carried empty jars, searching for water, their laughter replaced by footsteps slow and heavy. Elsewhere, the skies poured endlessly, rain swelling rivers until they spilled beyond their ancient paths. Homes stood in trembling water, boats drifting where streets once held, laughter and voices of trade. Mothers calmed their children with songs, while fathers built walls of sand and stone, praying they would hold. Zeus saw it all, the dry lands aching, the flooded valleys groaning under the weight of too much. It was imbalance, pure and undeniable, not born of malice, but of neglect, a tilt in the world's rhythm. The winds carried sorrow to his hall, each gust filled with stories of drought, flood, fear, and endurance. He listened, his chest heavy, for each tale was a thread tugging at the fabric of balance he guarded. Thunder stirred within him, not in rage but in sorrow, a sound that echoed his yearning to restore harmony. Yet he knew storms alone could not fix what was broken, for storms are power, not wisdom or patience. He walked among the clouds, his steps echoing softly, considering how best to weave balance once more. The prophecy whispered in his thoughts, reminding him that Stormbreaker was not destruction but renewal. He saw again the elders speaking, their words weaving faith, their belief that storms were more than fear. He saw the children listening, their eyes bright, as if they could still trust that the sky was not cruel. And he felt the weight of their hope, fragile yet strong, resting silently upon his divine shoulders. Zeus looked upon the sea, its waves restless, rising higher with each pull of the unseen moon above. The sea too was unbalanced, its calm broken, its fury unchecked, mirroring the world's disquiet. Lightning flashed briefly across his palm, a reminder of the power he carried, sharp, bright, and swift. But he closed his hand, holding it still, for power without purpose would only deepen the wounds below. He turned his gaze toward the mountains, ancient and calm, keepers of truths the storms could not erase. They whispered with their silent strength, teaching that balance was not force, but rhythm restored in time. Zeus breathed deeply, his chest rising with the storm that longed to speak, yet waited for his command. He remembered when his storms had brought fear, shaking lands until mortals cried out for mercy. But he also remembered when rain had come gently, and joy spread like wildfire through grateful hearts. Both faces of the storm lived within him, and now he was called to choose which one would awaken. The imbalance demanded an answer, and his silence could no longer stretch into eternity unbroken. The winds returned, circling him, carrying the sound of prayers rising from fields, rivers, and cities. "Great Zeus," they whispered, "the world asks not for fear, but for balance. for storms that heal. He listened, his heart steady, his decision forming like thunderclouds, taking shape upon the horizon. The imbalance was clear, the call undeniable, and he knew he could not remain silent forever. Still, he waited, shaping the storm within, for timing was as sacred as power, and wisdom guided both. He turned once more to the earth, his eyes filled with compassion, not distance. As he watched, the world below trembled in drought and flood, yet within its struggle shone resilience and hope. He realized then that the storm must come not as punishment, but as reminder, as lesson and renewal. Balance was not in silence, nor in endless calm, but in the rise and fall of storm and peace alike. Zeus lifted his staff of thunder, not in anger, but in resolve, his choice firm, yet gentle in its weight. The storm within him swirled, a symphony waiting, not to break the world, but to realign its song. And though he did not yet release it, the skies above shifted, preparing for what was to unfold. The imbalance had spoken, and Zeus had listened, ready now to guide the storm with a wiser hand. The night deepened, and the stars looked down with quiet eyes, bearing witness to the weight upon Zeus. He walked through the halls of cloud, each step echoing with the rhythm of storms waiting to awaken. The winds whispered again, not of trouble this time, but of voices below, rising in prayer and song. Across the earth, mortals gathered in circles, lifting their words into the night, seeking guidance. Their fires burned in valleys and on hills, small lights flickering like stars upon the soil of the world. Some prayed for rain to return, gentle and steady, to bring life to their barren, thirsty fields. Others prayed for the floods to ease, for waters to retreat and grant them rest from their weary labor. All prayers, though different in sound, carried the same root: balance, harmony, the hand of the divine. Zeus listened, his heart stirred by the unity of mortals, fragile, yet powerful in their shared hope. He had seen them quarrel and divide, yet here they were joined, bound by the storm's silent command. The sound of their voices wove through the winds, rising higher, reaching his hall of thunder. And for the first time in many ages, Zeus felt not distant, but close, as if he stood among them. He saw a farmer kneel with soil in hand, whispering thanks for every seed that still clung to life. He saw children gaze upward, their small hands folded, their eyes reflecting starlight and trust. He saw elders chant ancient hymns, words old as stone, songs carried through generations unbroken. Each image etched itself into his spirit, feeding the storm within not with anger but with compassion. The thunder in his chest softened, transforming from roar to song, a melody waiting to be released. Zeus lifted his staff and felt its pulse, the rhythm of storm and sky, aligned with mortal hearts below. The prophecy returned to him, clearer now. Stormbreaker was not destruction, but bridge and bond. He understood then that the storm was not his alone, but woven also through the prayers of mortals. Together, their voices and his power would shape the balance the world so desperately sought. The winds swirled gently, sensing the change, their tone lighter, filled with anticipation and wonder. "Great Zeus," they whispered softly, "you are not alone. The earth has spoken. The time draws near." Zeus nodded, his eyes bright with resolve, his burden now shared, his spirit steadied by their faith. He walked to the edge of the hall, where clouds parted, unveiling the vastness of the living earth. The fires below flickered warmly, countless points of light mirroring the constellations above. The storm within him shifted, no longer restless, but calm, ready, shaped by compassion and purpose. He raised his staff high, lightning curling around it, not wild but controlled, a beacon of his will. The skies answered with a soft rumble, not fearsome but reassuring, a promise carried in sound. Mortals below paused in their prayers, sensing the change, feeling the sky lean gently toward them. The air grew full with quiet power, the kind that soothes rather than startles, like rain before dawn. Zeus spoke then. His voice carried on the winds, reaching ears though no mortal could see him. "Children of the earth," he said, "your voices are heard. Balance will come, not to harm, but to heal." The words touched their hearts, stirring courage, weaving hope stronger into the fabric of the night. Some wept softly, others smiled. All felt the nearness of the storm, yet did not tremble with fear. Instead, they felt embraced, as if the sky itself had bent down to cradle them with gentle hands. Zeus lowered his staff, the storm within quiet, waiting for the moment when its lesson would begin. For now, he chose patience, letting faith and hope continue to rise like dawn across the earth. The fires burned on, the prayers grew steady, and the world exhaled, knowing it had been heard. Zeus returned to his throne of clouds, his spirit lighter, his storm aligned with the hearts of mortals. The path of the Stormbreaker had become clear, and though the storm had yet to break, it was near. The dawn broke gently, spilling gold across the edges of the sky. Yet Zeus remained restless in his hall. The prayers still echoed in his spirit, reminding him that the storm was both gift and burden to carry. Below, the earth moved forward, its people rising with the sun, unaware of how near change had come. Farmers stepped into their cracked fields, their hands brushing wilted stalks, whispering promises to endure. Children fetched water from distant wells, their small footsteps steady, despite the heavy jars they bore. Fishermen pushed boats into swollen rivers, their eyes scanning skies, hoping for calmer winds. In the cities, merchants lit fires, rebuilding stalls washed away by recent floods, determined to begin again. Zeus watched it all, his gaze lingering on their persistence, their courage, their refusal to yield. He realized then that mortals carried storms within them too, battles unseen but equally fierce. And it was in their endurance that the prophecy of Stormbreaker gained new meaning for him. The storm was not just thunder and rain, but resilience, the strength to bend without breaking. The winds gathered close, sensing his thoughts, carrying with them the scent of earth after rain. "Great One," they whispered, "do you see how the world carries storms of its own?" Zeus nodded slowly, his eyes narrowing, his heart moved by the truth hidden in their words. He thought of the boy carrying water, the mother calming her child, the elder singing old songs. Each carried a fragment of the storm, small but powerful, teaching him as much as he taught them. The clouds shifted around his hall, forming shapes of rivers, fields, and mountains below. Zeus raised his staff, not in command, but in contemplation, feeling its pulse echo with mortal rhythm. Lightning curled faintly, calm and steady, reflecting the balance he sought to create in the skies. He spoke softly, his words meant for the winds alone, yet echoing like distant thunder. Stormbreaker is not one, but many. Each soul that endures becomes part of its strength. The winds bowed, their forms swirling with reverence, carrying his words across the heavens. Far below, mortals felt it without knowing. A warmth in the air, a calm before rain. They looked skyward with eyes wide, sensing not fear but the presence of something greater. The prophecy had always been cloaked in mystery, but now its threads began to weave together. It was not about a savior descending, but about the bond between earth and sky being restored. Zeus felt lighter, his burden no longer only his, but shared across countless hearts below. He remembered the first storms he had sent, wild and fierce, and how they had only brought fear. But this storm, when it came, would be different. It would teach, heal, and renew the earth. Balance would not be forced, but guided, shaped by patience and by trust. Between realms, the staff glowed faintly in his hand, not with power to destroy, but with promise to protect. The winds lifted higher, singing softly, their voices blending with the hum of the heavens. Zeus turned toward the horizon, where dark clouds gathered, waiting for his command. But he did not unleash them yet. Wisdom told him that timing mattered as much as power. He let the clouds drift, heavy yet held. A reminder that storms need not always strike in haste. Below, mortals continued their lives, unaware they had already become part of his unfolding choice. Their endurance, their hope, their unity had become the quiet force shaping the storm to come. Zeus sat upon his throne, his spirit no longer heavy, his storm no longer restless, but ready. The Stormbreaker was awakening not in the sky alone, but in every soul that looked upward with faith. The morning stretched wide, yet shadows lingered, carried by storms gathering at the edge of the horizon. Zeus stood in his hall of clouds, listening to the quiet hum of the skies, steady, yet waiting to be stirred. The winds circled him gently, their whispers carrying fragments of mortal stories from distant lands below. They spoke of fields struggling, of rivers rising, of voices lifted in prayer, of hearts steady in hope. Each story pressed against his spirit, reminding him of the delicate thread that bound sky and earth. Zeus walked to the balcony of clouds, gazing out where sunlight broke through veils of drifting mist. From there, he saw the mountains shrouded in silence, guardians of secrets older than the storm itself. He saw valleys stretched wide, their rivers restless, their forests whispering of change yet to come. And he saw the sea, vast and unyielding, its tides stronger, its voice louder with each passing tide. The world was speaking, not in words but in rhythm, urging him to hear, to act, to remember balance. Zeus placed his hand on his staff, feeling the thrum of lightning pulsing like a heartbeat within. It was not wild this time, but steady, as though it too had learned patience from his restraint. He thought of the prophecy, the name Stormbreaker, spoken with faith yet burdened with expectation. It was not a crown to wear, but a path to walk, one shaped by the bond between heaven and earth. The winds gathered closer, their tones solemn. Great Zeus, the horizon darkens, the storm draws near. Zeus nodded, his eyes steady, his mind clear, though his heart carried the weight of eternity. He had waited, listened, learned, but the time to shape the storm was drawing ever closer now. Still, he knew balance was not in haste, but in choosing the moment when all threads aligned as one. He turned again to the earth, where mortals carried their quiet storms in silence, endurance, and hope. A farmer raised his eyes to the sky, whispering thanks even as his fields thirsted for rain. A mother sang softly to her child, her song rising above the flood, carrying courage into the night. Children laughed in play, their joy fragile but unbroken, like sunlight piercing through gathering clouds. These moments mattered, Zeus knew, for they wove strength into the world, more than any storm could. The wind shifted, carrying a warmth from below, the warmth of unity, rising unseen but felt. Zeus breathed deeply, his chest steady, the storm within aligned with the rhythm of mortal hearts. He raised his staff, letting a faint spark dance, a signal not of fear but of promise across the sky. Far below, mortals paused, their eyes lifted, sensing something gentle moving in the air around them. It was not thunder they heard, but reassurance. Not lightning they feared, but light they welcomed. The prophecy stirred again, clearer than ever. Stormbreaker was not power alone, but connection. It was the meeting of strength and endurance, of storm and soil, of sky and the hearts of mortals. Zeus lowered his staff, not to hold back, but to prepare, to guide the storm that would soon awaken. The clouds above thickened, yet they did not frighten. Instead, they glowed with a calm radiance. Mortals looked upward, some with awe, some with tears, all sensing the nearness of something vast. Zeus spoke softly, his voice carried on winds. Balance comes not to break, but to remind and renew. The words touched the earth unseen, weaving through fields, rivers, forests, and the restless sea. Hope grew steady in mortal hearts, woven tighter with every whisper of wind across their skin. The winds swirled brighter, singing a low hymn, their song rising with the quiet thunder of the skies. Zeus stood tall, his figure vast against the horizon, not as a judge, but as a guardian of rhythm. The storm within him was ready, not to unleash chaos, but to restore harmony with patient strength. He closed his eyes, letting silence speak, letting the world feel the weight of calm before renewal. And as the skies dimmed softly, the prophecy unfolded quietly, step by step, unseen but certain. The Stormbreaker was no longer distant, no longer hidden. It was alive, in every bond between earth and sky. The night deepened, yet the sky glowed softly, as if stars bent low to listen to the earth's quiet heartbeat. Zeus stood in silence, his figure steady, watching how the clouds moved, with rhythm instead of unrest. He felt the calm before the rising wave, not a storm of ruin, but of renewal waiting at the edge of dawn. The winds sang faintly, carrying notes of hope, weaving together the prayers of mortals across the land. Every whisper lifted higher, reaching him, not in desperation, but in trust that balance would return. He closed his eyes, feeling the chorus of earth and sky, blending like threads woven into a single fabric. The prophecy echoed again, not loud but steady, reminding him of the path chosen long before time. Stormbreaker was not born in thunder's roar, but in the harmony of every soul bound to the living world. Zeus walked slowly across the balcony of clouds, his steps light, yet carrying the weight of eternity. He gazed downward at villages flickering with firelight, glowing like stars mirroring the heavens above. Children slept with peaceful dreams, though storms whispered beyond, their laughter still in the air. Elders spoke quietly of resilience, their voices weaving wisdom that even winds carried with reverence. The mountains stood unmoving, yet even they seemed to listen, their peaks glowing in starlight calm. The seas swelled gently, not in anger, but in rhythm, as though awaiting a command not of force, but of care. The rivers carried silver reflections, their current swift yet willing, as if ready for a new beginning. Forests rustled in the dark, each leaf a note in the hymn of the night, blending with whispers of wind. Zeus felt the bond strengthen, a current flowing from mortal hearts to the staff glowing in his hand. The lightning pulsed within, not as fire but as light, patient and steady, like a lantern in endless night. He raised the staff high, not to strike but to listen, and the skies brightened faintly, shimmering alive. A low hum spread outward, a wave of calm rolling across the heavens, touching sea and soil alike. Mortals stirred, sensing something vast yet gentle, brushing against their dreams with unseen warmth. They did not wake in fear, but turned in peace, comforted by the quiet presence flowing in the air. The prophecy spoke again in silence. Stormbreaker is not power over, but power with. Zeus breathed the words, letting them ripple, carried far, through valleys, peaks, rivers, and seas. Balance was not a gift to grant, but a truth to reveal, hidden in the bond already living in all hearts. The clouds parted slightly, revealing stars brighter, as though they, too, leaned closer to witness. A star shot across the sky, swift and radiant, leaving a trail like a promise written in fire. Zeus watched it fade, knowing the sign was not for him alone, but for every eye that looked upward. Far below, a shepherd lifted his gaze, smiling quietly, whispering thanks into the still night. A traveler paused on her path, touched by unseen comfort, and found courage to walk forward again. A child stirred in sleep, dreaming of golden light, holding hope like a treasure in tiny hands. These moments gathered in Zeus's heart, stronger than storms, clearer than lightning, eternal as dawn. The winds circled faster now, yet still soft, their hymn deepening into a chorus of promise. Zeus stood taller, The storm within calm but ready, shaped by patience, guided by connection. He knew the dawn would carry change, but not as destruction, instead as renewal woven in harmony. The prophecy no longer lingered in shadow but shone with clarity. Balance was already awakening. Stormbreaker was alive, not only in his hand, but in the unity of earth, sea, sky, and every soul. He lowered his staff gently, letting the glow remain, a light not to command but to guide. And the night, vast and endless, hummed with a secret. The storm was no longer feared, but embraced. The dawn stirred gently, painting the horizon with threads of gold, silver, and deep blue still clinging to night. Zeus stood at the edge of the clouds, feeling the first warmth of sunlight touch the storm resting in his hand. The prophecy pulsed again in his heart, not as command but as reminder. Stormbreaker must awaken with balance. The winds hushed, waiting, carrying with them the hush of forests. The grating died, rhythm of seas, the song of valleys. Zeus gazed below, where mortals were rising, their eyes lifted, their lives steady, though storms loomed. Farmers stepped into fields, hands rough, yet patient, carrying trust that skies would soon answer with rain. Sailors watched the waves, their boats swaying, their songs steady, as though in harmony with the sea's breath. Children ran across stone streets, laughter echoing, fragile but stronger than any shadow of storm. Every act spoke of endurance, of courage unseen, of faith rooted deeper than the soil beneath their feet. Zeus felt the bond again, stronger than lightning, woven through every mortal heartbeat, binding sky to earth. He lifted his staff slowly, the light within growing, no longer hidden, but radiant like dawn's first fire. The clouds stirred above, folding and unfolding, not in anger but in preparation for what must now begin. The winds swirled brighter, their song rising, no longer whispers, but a hymn echoing across mountains. The seas answered with a steady roar, not destructive but full, like a drum beating to the world's rhythm. The forests swayed, leaves shimmering, each branch bending but not breaking in the rising tide of air. The mountains shone faintly, their stone faces glowing as though lit from within by hidden embers, and the rivers rushed stronger, carrying the reflection of dawn like silver ribbons weaving through valleys. Zeus raised his voice, deep and calm. Stormbreaker is not to end, but to renew, to remind, to guide. The words moved with the wind, reaching the earth, touching hearts, unseen, stirring courage where it lay. Mortals felt it, pausing in their work, lifting eyes skyward, sensing presence vast yet gentle above. It was not fear they felt, but recognition, as if the storm belonged to them as much as to the sky. Zeus let the lightning rise, glowing around him, not striking, but unfolding like light spilling through clouds. It spread across the heavens, painting streaks of brilliance that danced, not in rage, but in radiant song. Children laughed louder, pointing upward, seeing not danger but wonder in the glowing arcs above. Elders smiled softly, their voices steady, whispering. The balance is here, the prophecy breathes. The seas grew calm, their waves shimmering with light, carrying ships safely, guiding them homeward. Forests quieted, their hymn softening, each leaf glowing faintly as if kissed by the morning Sunday. Zeus lowered the staff gently, but the light remained, woven into the air, the soil, and mortal hearts. The prophecy was no longer a shadow of what might come. It was alive, breathing, and unfolding. Stormbreaker was not a strike of power, but a bridge, uniting heaven's rhythm with earth's endurance. Zeus stood taller, yet gentler, his figure vast but no longer distant, his presence woven into every breeze. The dawn brightened, carrying golden warmth, each ray touching the land with promise of harmony. Mortals felt it too, carrying hope into their steps, their songs, their laughter, their unshaken trust. The storm had not come to break, but to weave, to remind all that balance was already within them. Zeus smiled faintly, his eyes calm, knowing the moment of renewal had begun, steady as sunrise. And the winds, rivers, seas, and forests answered together, singing a hymn of balance across the earth. The prophecy had spoken, not of fear, but of unity, and its truth now lived in the hearts of all. Stormbreaker had awakened, not with thunder, but with light carried gently in dawn's embrace. The sun climbed higher, scattering gold across the clouds, each ray carrying the hush of night into bright renewal. Zeus stood silent, his figure vast yet calm, the storm within him quiet, now woven into the breath of dawn. The prophecy had guided him here, step by step, not to unleash chaos, but to remind creation of its harmony. The winds swirled gently, no longer restless, carrying laughter from valleys, songs from seas, whispers from forests. He felt every voice, every hope, every prayer, woven together into one chorus of balance across the earth. The staff in his hand glowed faintly, not as a weapon, but as a lantern, steady, guiding, warm in its light. Zeus looked down upon mortals, their lives small, yet vast, filled with courage that echoed through the skies. Farmers bent to soil, with hope renewed, their fields alive again with the promise of gentle rain to come. Sailors raised their sails without fear, knowing the seas would guide them, not swallow them, into safe harbors. Children ran in the morning streets, their joy a hymn stronger than thunder, brighter than any flash of lightning. Each act was simple, yet each one carried the truth of the prophecy. Stormbreaker lived in unity, not might. The mountains glimmered faintly, their peaks crowned with light, as though bowing to the dawn's quiet wisdom. The rivers flowed swift, their currents playful, carrying silver sparks of morning toward the waiting sea. The forests whispered gently, leaves glowing like embers touched by the first light of day's awakening. The seas stretched vast, their waves calm, reflecting the sky like a mirror of boundless balance above. Zeus lifted his voice softly. Stormbreaker is not mine alone. It is yours, woven in every breath you take. The winds carried his words, laying them gently upon the shoulders of mortals, light as morning dew. They felt it, not as command, but as reminder that they too held power to nurture, to heal, to endure. The prophecy no longer belonged to the heavens alone. It was planted in hearts, blooming like spring. Zeus lowered his staff, and its glow lingered, dissolving into the air, the rivers, the soil, the mortal song. Balance was not a gift given, but a truth awakened, waiting for each soul to remember its rhythm. Children laughed louder, pointing skyward, their voices carrying joy into corners of the earth still waking. Elders nodded softly, recognizing the moment, whispering, "The storm has broken, yet it has healed." The dawn shone brighter, each ray a thread tying earth to sky, weaving renewal across every horizon. Zeus stepped back, letting silence speak, letting mortals carry forward the truth he had only revealed. His heart eased, knowing the prophecy was not a burden, but a song that would echo through all ages. Stormbreaker was not a single act, but a living bond, renewed each day, in simple courage and quiet hope. The mountains, seas, and forests sang together, their voices blending in harmony with mortal hearts. Zeus turned to the horizon, the light soft upon his face, his presence no longer distant, but everywhere. The staff dimmed, its glow now part of the world, woven into rain, sunlight, wind, and mortal breath. The prophecy rested, complete yet eternal, a reminder that balance was never lost, only forgotten. Mortals walked forward, carrying hope into their fields, their homes, their journeys across land and sea. The dawn stretched wide, brighter with each step, as if the world itself had chosen to awaken again. Zeus smiled faintly, his gaze steady, knowing his role was not to rule, but to guard the rhythm of all. And so the storm had broken, not in fury, but in grace. leaving harmony where silence once trembled. The prophecy lived on, not in stone nor sky, but in every soul that carried light through shadow. Stormbreaker was not an ending, but a beginning, a promise renewed with each sunrise to come.